Hey, welcome to the number one support workers advice line. I'm Chris. I want to finish off the incident report writing pod with more talk about documentation and documents contributing to future funding for the client, for your organisation. Keeps your boss happy. The boss will be really happy for you to contribute to future funding opportunities for the provider, for the client. The family will be happy. Innovations are being made via the documentation that you're providing. Never has there been a more important time to document. With the here in Middle Australia, we have the NDIS, and we justify that at a yearly review for the client, and that is an allowance for a year's worth of services provided by people like yourselves. The idea is to document objectively. You need to really just state facts. It needs to be impartial. It needs to be an account of what happened. Do it thoroughly and do it rigorously. When you're taking down documents, you need to really just spend a bit of time eliciting the words and putting them on paper. You have to do it often. By the end of the shift, case notes need to be done. Don't leave it till later. They will pile up. That goes for financial ledgers, any transportation logs that you have. You need to do that by the end of shift. Advocate for yourself. Get a bit of time at the end of shift to fill out your documents rigorously and thoroughly. Email your boss. Email your boss anything new, any ideas that you might have, any observations about the client. Bring this up at your supervision. That's also something you can do. Talk about client, help contribute to a sophisticated understanding of where the client's coming from and where they're going to. When you write good notes, good clear notes, maybe 3 points after every session, you are contributing to the ongoing well-being of the client. And make it something different, like you notice something different, not such and such sat and played, or such and such ate his lunch by himself or on his own, or revelations like this. Let's make him put a bit more colour in there and make it profound. So-and-so, usually it's about identifying the relationships there. So-and-so spent time talking to so-and-so. They talked about this. I joined, as a support worker, I joined in on the conversation, on the social revelry that was happening. Document that. So-and-so communicated with such and such. So-and-so said hi to this person. And then if you need to make comments on appearance and presentation, make sure you can do notes. I'll go into this in a minute, but you can do notes next to the client. And you can say, hi, I'm doing your notes now. What do you want to say in here? And then you might strike up a conversation about going shopping or getting some new pants or going to the hairdresser, or, you're up close and personal with them, grooming. They expect this sort of advice from you. You can broach that. So you couple it with taking time out to do your case notes, do your reporting and recording. Couple it with an intervention with the client. Go sit with the client. Make time with the client. If the client's really non-verbal and non-engaging, it's easy to sort of see the same case note over and over again. But what you can do is you can put people in their sphere. You can put people up against them. Like send people to go and say hello. Had lunch with this support worker today. Had lunch out at this cafe. Said hello to local, yokel, whatever's going on out there. So just make sure you really communicate that sort of colour and variety of who the client was interacting with, or what the client was interacting with. So it could be sand, it could be out in the world on a walk, an animal, or just something that adds a bit of colour and a bit of difference to that day and to that day's notes needs to happen. Difference to that day's notes. Fall on your sword if you need to. If you set up a crappy outing, or you were late, or so-and-so didn't get along with so-and-so, then contribute to the healthy dialogue about, oh, well, I could have helped you there. I could have noticed that wasn't going to work for you, and sort of move that along. Fall on your sword with regard to case notes, as writing insufficient case notes, and get some advice from your colleagues. But I'm telling you, the client, sit down with the client, and doing it with the client for 2 minutes is gold. Because it also signs off on the service of the day. And you've provided your service for the day. What did you think of it? Time for review. It's a very good practice to get into, and you should roll it out with your support workers. Communicate openly with the client, so that really seated alongside, not in front of with your notebook, but you could be seated alongside of the client, and they could you could have a notebook here, and you're just sort of talking about make it a little official, the case note portion of the afternoon. That will contribute to your practice as a support worker, make you a better support worker. You'll be able to articulate a lot more easily, a lot more genuinely what's happening in your job description as you roll out your job description. It'll help you gain confidence. Being good at good noting. Map out who is important to the client in ways of their conversation topics that you can have. You can recognise who he or she gets along with better in any support setting, any therapeutic environment that you're trying to create. And point out who the client isn't really getting along with. Also, you can sort of point out that, oh, I've noticed that you don't really get along with that person that well. Or what happened there, or I noticed that this. You can have these conversations with people, sort of bring them out of their, if there's any relational funk around. And you could point to, so you could brace it as, oh, who are you still sort of getting to know, and then you'll be able to work out where people are really at, who you're still getting to know. They strike up conversations of, well, why don't you know them better? Why don't we go and sit with them, or why don't we go and spend time with that person over there? So that's an aspect of tangible relationship building that can happen with this recording and reporting. 2 to 5 minutes each day with the client. That each day that you're with them with the client, and just take 3 points, 3 bullet points if you need. But it could be braced around an interaction with somebody or something, or it has to have some colour in it, some sort of, yeah, that was a cool thing. Inject a bit of variety in your descriptions as well. I know I said keep it simple, but you can introduce items and people into notes. Yeah. Client did this, client said that, client said this, client did this. That's the objective reporting. They can go into your 3 sentences. The big emphasis here needs to be on future funding and collation of information on behalf of client. But the future funding is imperative for the industry's survival. It's not going anywhere, but what it can help is people getting good at developing sophisticated views on the client, the person receiving the services, and it gives value to the work in that it's creating accounts, colourful, wordy accounts, and showing that the social connections are made, and that can go into sort of evidence that people are building in self-esteem and well-being. And that's really where we want to be, is getting more money for people's self-esteem and well-being. People who couldn't get the money ordinarily because they don't have the capacity. We can go on about that. You get confident articulating work when you write good, concise, clear case notes that you get feedback on. So communicating with your boss is a good way to sort of develop your own professional dialogue, vernacular, that you can use to articulate client needs and wants and advocate on behalf of the client. Well, just bringing it right back to client said this, client did this. So it's a skill set to be established, is the documenting and recording and reporting, but it's the setting aside a time and developing the skill set around the consultation. If you choose to have it with clients, I'd recommend you do it with some, because it will enhance the way that you see the client, and it empowers. It will lift the client and the service. Everybody knows that if there's a review time at the end of the session, then we can sign off on it and everything's. We'll see you tomorrow, and we've got the feedback from today. It is. It will create better communication within the groups and the system at large. It'll create good instances of home appreciation for the client. It'll make it easy, and it will calm settings down. When people are catered for, when their likes and dislikes are catered for in group settings, then it can be calmer. When they're assured that it's going to be to their liking, and that it'll be the same as what it was before, and there will be an opportunity to have a review at the end of the session today. Okay, so documents make for future funding. How to write the documents, sit with the client. Okay, thanks so much. See you later.